you subscribe to Primetime Magazine? This is the premier magazine in backgammon, published by the USBGF, the United States Backgammon Federation, available to members both online and in print. It has lots of features, lots of great articles talking to you about tournaments, lots of strategy. You can learn a lot. I highly recommend it. And in this video, it's my great pleasure to have the executive editor, Marty Storer, joining me. For those who follow backgammon and watch videos on this channel, my good friend Marty Storer is a legend of backgammon and he needs no introduction. However, I will read an introduction that Karen Davis kindly wrote for him. Marty Storer is a distinguished world-class player, author, and dedicated contributor to the backgammon community. He's a BMAB Grandmaster Class 1 with a PR rating of 3.23. One of only 3 Americans to have earned a G1 or G0 title. He is currently number 22 on the Giants of Backgammon Top 32 list and has been on the list since 2015. He won the 2022 American Backgammon Tour Player of the Year as well as the inaugural 1993 ABT, demonstrating his preeminence over 30 years. Marty Storer is the executive editor of Primetime Backgammon. Published 4 times a year, Primetime is considered by many to be the finest game magazine in the world because of its consistent level of quality. Marty has written over 75 excellent analytical articles for the magazine since its launch in September 2010. This publication's readability, attractiveness, and overall high quality is a reflection of his dedicated and talented service. In addition to the articles and position analyses that he writes for Primetime, Marty co-authored What's Your Game Plan? Backgammon Strategy in the Middle Game with Mary Hickey in 2011. In 2005, he published Backgammon Practice, a 2-volume analysis of 3 matches played by Malcolm Davis. His writing style makes his analysis accessible to players of all skill levels with an occasional indulgence of humor. He served 2 terms on the USBGF Board of Directors as secretary and as a member of its executive committee. He was recognized with the USBGF Lifetime Achievement Award in 2021 and is being inducted into the American Backgammon Hall of Fame in June of 2025. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoy this video. Please like and subscribe and you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, what you'd like to see in future videos, and I'll work on it. If you love backgammon, you can become a member of this channel, giving you exclusive access to the most popular videos. My book, Backgammon Backgame Strategies, is available. There's a link in the description where you can get it. And if you're interested in the lessons, please contact me via email. My email address is also in the description. It's my great pleasure to welcome back Marty Storer. Hello.
Hello there, Alex.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine, and you?
Very good, very good. I'm always doing well when I get to see you and many other wonderful backgammon players. So at the time of this recording, it's before the June tournament in Los Angeles, but that's when we will have the Hall of Fame awards dinner. And by the time of the publication of this video, you will have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. So congratulations, long time coming.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, it's there are a lot of deserving people in the queue ahead of me, so shout out to them.
Yeah, you've certainly done a lot. I appreciate all of your contributions. Obviously, all the things that Karen had mentioned in the introduction, and also it's always a pleasure to see you when you come to the Los Angeles tournaments. Unfortunately, I have trouble traveling to tournaments because of work and family commitments. But when you come, it's really great to have you. You help a lot on the commentary, and people really enjoy that. So thank you.
Well, thanks. It's my pleasure.
Wonderful. So I'm excited to be talking about Primetime Magazine because I remember when the USBGF started, it was maybe around 2008 or 2009. The magazine was started shortly thereafter, and it's done nothing but get better and better over time. So let's start with a few questions for the viewers. I mentioned it a little bit already, but tell us, what is Primetime Magazine?
Okay, so Primetime Magazine, the full name is USBGF, US Backgammon Federation, Primetime Backgammon Magazine. People refer to it as Primetime or Primetime Magazine or Primetime Backgammon. and it's the quarterly magazine of the US Backgammon Federation, and it's available in print or digital copy to members of the organization and others who choose to pay for it. So, as the official periodical of the US Backgammon Federation, yeah, it has. I have heard that some people say it's the best publication of its kind in the world. Now, as the current executive editor and the author of all the articles that were mentioned in the introduction, I find it a personal point of pride that anyone at all holds that opinion. And I know that many people have contributed a lot of time and effort to making it one of the Federation's crown jewels. And I believe that crown jewel part sincerely, although obviously I have an inherent bias.
Absolutely. So that's one of the benefits of being a member of the US BGF, US Backgammon Federation. Of course, you and I are both members, and many other people are members. And this is one of the benefits. So you get exclusive access to Primetime Magazine. And if you have a higher membership level, you can get the print version, which is absolutely beautiful.
Yes. So if I remember correctly, okay, so I know that if you have a premium membership with the Federation, which costs right now, I believe, $85 a year, you do get access, as you said, to all of the electronic copies of primetime issues, and they go back to 2010. And so, the September, October 2010 was the first one. And the Federation was founded, it was officially founded late in 2009. So by the latter part of 2010, they had started the magazine, and just a lot of people contributed to that.
So this is the USBGF website that shows the member benefits, and the top one is the Primetime Magazine. So we discussed that, but I wanted to just briefly go through all the other ones. The ABT, you get to play on the American Backgammon Tour. Let's see, there's the online tournament series, which a lot of people enjoy playing on. So not only in person, but also online. Lots of different ways to improve your game. So the online match series, where the group plays against Roberto Litzenberger, and I had the privilege of being what is it, the commentator? I talk about the answers of the plays, and I believe you and Neil Kazaros have done that before. Bray's learning curve is fantastic. Lots of great positions. Phil Simborg has done hundreds of videos. There's Backgammon 101. You get a discount to Extreme Gammon, discount to Gammon Village, Cook Travel discount. I'm not familiar with this one, but that's another one. So a lot of benefits of becoming a member of the USBGF. So I highly recommend the viewers become a member. I'll put a link in the description to where you can do that.
Great. Yeah, there's one more thing I'd like to mention about that is that uh, you get there are a lot of tournaments for members that have added money added by the U.S. Backgammon Federation to the prize pool.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So
So you are currently the executive editor, and how long have you been in that role?
I believe since late 2019, maybe early 2020, or maybe I'm a year off. Maybe I started in 19.
Okay.
But I've
So
been in different editorial roles before that. They tapped me as something called an annotated match editor, and then then Karen Davis, who was instrumental in starting the magazine back in 2010, she thought I might make a good managing editor, and that's the role that she had been in, I think, since the beginning. And by 2017, I think it was, I was the assistant managing editor, and then I took over as managing editor maybe in 2018. And then they decided they would reduce the number of editors because I played a big role in all of the editing. And I volunteered to do that for not very much of an honorarium. So now I was looking at the old issues electronically. So the second issue was November, December 2010. And they had I think they had 6 editors called out. What were they? There was a chief editor, and there was an associate editor, a managing editor, which was Karen, a production editor. Gus Contos, I think, was the first one. There was an assistant editor, associate besides associate editor, and a feature editor. And there was an editorial advisory board consisting of 10 people. Some of those also had editorial roles. So I just want to emphasize that from the beginning, Primetime was a major effort of the Federation. And Karen Davis conceived of it, I believe, very, very quickly after the Federation started. And a lot of people put in a lot of work to get it going and give it a real administrative and technical structure.
These are some of the very first issues of Primetime Magazine.
Yep, there we go. That's volume one. I see volume one, number one on the right. That's right. That's the first one.
Yeah,
So there's
very
John O'Hagan on the bottom right of each one, and on the one on the left, which the second issue is Chuck Bauer at the bottom, Matt Cohen-Geyer at the top. Matt Cohen-Geyer was the first editor of the magazine.
okay. Another outstanding player. Lots of great players. So, tell us a little bit about how the magazine has evolved from where it started back then to where it is today.
So now Karen was, I want to say a little bit more about Karen's role in starting it.
You do.
So she was in real life, her day job, she was an economist. And she had a lot of publications as an economist. I think she was the first female member in a high ranking, it wasn't a cabinet position, obviously, but it was not the head of a cabinet, but it was um, some kind of advisory or assistant to an undersecretary type for healthcare. And she did things like, she just mentioned this one time to me in passing, I designed Denmark's healthcare system. So I think she said that to me about 6 or 7 years ago. So I said, wow, I never knew that, Karen. That's pretty good. And she said, oh, it was easy, whatever, aw shucks. And she was a health policy expert, and she's written a lot of books about that. She's run a big philanthropic foundation that I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's a well-known foundation. She was the head of it, the chairman of the board, whatever, something like that. And she wrote a lot of journal articles in the field and everything like that. So she had an eye toward quality, and she wanted Primetime to be a publication that would be known for professional level writing and accuracy and timely coverage of backgammon news. And that would benefit everybody who read it, especially USBGF members. So Perry Gardner, who was the first president and executive director, was right on board with that. I recall that back in 2009, she was still, I think in the Novi tournament, Karen was soliciting support for the Federation. And that led up the launch of the magazine. And that was, I think that was September of the membership system. Okay, the membership system. That's right. The magazine coincided with the membership system of the Federation. The Federation had been founded, I think, that maybe like December of 2009, and then by September 2010, the membership system kicked off, and that was when the first Primetime Backgammon magazine started. Now, initially, it was published bi-monthly, so we had September, October issue, November, December. Continued that way into 2016. A couple of years prior to 2016, maybe in 2013, if I'm not misremembering, they changed from a sort of a newsletter format. It looked very nice, as you could see from the covers of the issues that Alex just showed, right? But it was made into a big glossy print edition. And the digital edition just mirrors what's printed. We give the same digital copy to the printer, and we make that copy available online. So, and it just got better. You know, we had excellent editors who uh, production editor. I particularly recall not only Gus Contos but Tara Mendocino. She was a real workhorse, and she used to run the Federation website as well as get all the production copy ready for prime time. And she worked so hard that I think, you know, she she moved on to bigger and better things in a lot of ways for herself with her husband Bill Riles, who they of course were in San Antonio and all these great events. So ever since the beginning, I remember there were always very good analytical articles and very good profiles of uh, different players, and people would be featured on the cover who did something great in the recent times of the magazine, of the issues coming out. And it had always been that way. We have lots of featured columns now. Art Benjamin writes a column called Math Overboard, where he gives you a lot of math shortcuts to use, because background's all about probability and risk versus gain, and it's good to be able to count different quantities and use those quantities in your when you're thinking about the best move. And Art has a lot of he's a math professor and published the famous discrete mathematician, and he's been doing that for many years. He's in the Hall of Fame. I think he was elected in 2020. Rich Munitz is also a longtime player and author. He won the ABT in one of those years.
One of the years, I remember that. I don't
One,
remember.
yeah, I think he won once, but there was a period of time when he was always in the running for the top spot. And he's the chairman of the Federation's Rules Committee. And he wrote a lot of the code, the computer code for the current website. And he's an expert in the rules, and he has a column called "What's the Ruling?" And we've added all these features. I mean, John Perner is the current president and executive director of the Federation, chief executive, actually, not executive director. And he reports on the doings of the Federation each issue. So we have a current perspective from the top, each of the 4 issues per year. So we want sort of a mix of a technical publication that helps readers improve their game, and sort of like People magazine, with tournament news, player human interest articles. And we're always trying to come up with new ideas. So any feedback, you can email info@usbgf.org, or there's various ways you can contact John Perner directly if you like. I think it's john@usbgf.org. And just give feedback, give shout outs or criticisms, whatever is desired. So that's the evolution of the magazine. It's still an evolving process, to decide what we're going to put into the magazine. We've got several members of the editorial advisory board, Karen Davis and myself, and our production editor, Chris Hoyer. And Joe Urso is what will we call him? He's got an official title. He's got an editorial role. I'm not remembering what it is, whether it's managing editor, assistant editor, right? It's something along those lines. He really does a lot.
He
He's a
does.
great player. He's won a few big tournaments. He was on the cover of, I think, Winter
The last
2025.
issue, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we have all these people helping a lot. We have Stuart Steen Connolly as our new marketing person. and he helps with the magazine as well because it's tied into the marketing content for the federation.
Yeah.
So that's sort of it in a nutshell about how primetime has evolved.
Great. And I
Not
wanted
in a
to
nutshell.
show for the viewers the most recent edition, the most recent issue is the spring of 2025 at the time that we're recording this video. And I wanted to flip through it a little bit so people can see the content. This one has Zizi Zdenek Žižka of the Czech Republic on the cover. He recently won the UBC crown. So that was fantastic. I'll flip through it and maybe you could say a few words as we're flipping through it in terms of the content. So this is the cover, and then it shows some of the upcoming tournaments. So this will be the tournament where you will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. But by the time this premieres, you will have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. So I'm looking forward to that. And then
I hope I live till then.
yeah. So this is the editor's note. So this is you write this every issue?
Yeah, just a synopsis of the whole issue. Try to compress the synopsis into no more than 2 pages.
Okay. So that's that there. And then in this issue it shows a few things. I need to get this book, How Not to Suck at Backgammon. Although
How to not suck, actually.
How to Not Suck at Backgammon. I
Yeah.
feel like I do not suck, but it would be a good read.
It's good. It's targeted at beginners and intermediates, but uh, it's excellent. It's excellent for that level. It really lays out some really important concepts, and so that it's easy to understand as well. We have a review by Phil Shapiro. She's an intermediate player. She's been
Oh yeah.
successful intermediate over the years. She's won a few that I remember, intermediate events or advanced, whatever they call them.
Mark Olson has written a number of outstanding books, and I actually had the privilege of proofreading his most recent book called The Golden Point, which has to do with when you make the 20 point as compared to the 5 point. So that will
Is
be out.
so it's not out yet, is it, or is it out?
Not quite yet. I think
Not quite. Okay.
he's finishing it up, but by the time people watch this video might be. So here shows the board of directors, but this is the president's column. So John Perner writes something each time. And then this is a nice one in memoriam of Alice Kay and Bill Davis. Would you like to say a word or two about either or both of these?
Yeah. So Bill Davis was an organizer. He was one of the top organizers of backgammon tournaments and promoters of backgammon. He's the one who came up with the idea for the American Backgammon Tour, and he was the principal person, and the federation actually bought the rights to the ABT from Bill. Maybe I'm not sure how many years ago. It seems like about 12 years ago, but I may be slightly wrong on that. No, so he was based in Chicago. He ran out a lot of tournaments in Chicago. He played in the Midwest all the time. He got out to other places as well. And he ran a newsletter called Chicago Point, and one could subscribe to it in print, which I did starting in the early 1980s, I think. And he had that became a website, the Chicago Point website. That was the name of his club. And it's still, that website is still going, and it's the primary source of information for tournament results. So what Primetime does is we, with all permission granted, we just cut and paste those results, and we into our and at the end of each issue we've got a synopsis of results not only American Backgammon Tour but around the world as well, and that comes directly from Chicago Point website.
That Bill Davis
So
is
Bill, yeah, he was a nice guy, and he's popular figure. He was a member of the first Hall of Fame class. The first bunch of people were elected in 2015, and he was one of them, deservedly so. And sadly, he's passed away. Now, Alice Kay was has been around backgammon playing for a long, long time. She was married to Gary Kay, not Gary, letter K, Koscielny, but Kay, and he was a player, who was active. I think he lived in Chicago too, and he and Alice. And Gary has been playing since probably the 70s, and but he passed away quite a while ago now. But Alice soldiered on, until just recently. And Alice was a very very popular figure. She was really contributed to the social aspect of the game. And I spoke to her at the last LA tournament, and she was a little under the weather, whatever, but she was still very much smiling and chipper and her usual self. So it's sad that she's gone as well. Now, our upcoming issue, summer 2024, is going to have more information about both of them, especially Bill, because Bill was a real mainstay of the game, and one of the people who's helped promote it to the extent that it's become more and more popular after a hiatus in popularity, maybe about 20 years ago.
Absolutely. They will both be dearly missed. Thank you very much for your comments and including them in the magazine. So you could get into the game. We'll just flip through some other pages. There's the Players Cup backgammon. This was a extension of the BMAB. Maybe you can tell the viewers what BMAB is and what Players Cup is, please.
BMAB stands for Backgammon Masters Awarding Body. They're an organization that awards titles to players based on performances evaluated by Extreme Gammon live on video, right? So lots of people record their matches with what I call the sky cam. There's Roberto Litzenberger, who wrote this article, sells lots of equipment for recording the matches, from the stand and the cameras to batteries and everything else you'd want. And lots of people are doing that. And if you can make a deal with Backgammon Masters awarding body you can submit matches with a link to the video that was taken in a live tournament, and they will run it through Extreme Gammon with their analysis settings, and they will record your performance ratings and all the matches, and they'll average all of the errors you make over all decisions you make. So performance rating is, the law is a number. The lower the better, meaning you made fewer errors. It's just it's a rescaling of the average difference in the equity XG says you had and the equity you achieved by your moves and your cube decisions. And so if you do really, really well, you can become what is called a super grandmaster. There's two of those creatures in the world, Mochi, that's Masayuki Mochizuki, and Dirk Schiemann from Germany. And then there are different titles. There's grandmaster titles. So there's level 0 is the strongest. And then level 1 is level 1 is where I am, and level 2 is a slightly worse PR, and level 3 is a slightly worse PR, but still grandmaster. And then from there you have master 1, which is the best level of master, and then master 2 and 3, and then you go to, I guess, what do you have, advanced? Is that it?
Advanced and intermediate.
Advanced and then intermediate.
Yeah.
So the good thing about doing that is you have your Extreme Gammon files, and if you enter these Players Cup events, right, there are tournaments that where the organizers submit all the matches that each entrant plays to BMAB, and then you get an official ranking. After you've played a certain number of matches, you have a certain experience level and you're eligible for a title. And everybody wants to get a better title than they now have, right? So that's one reason a lot of people who enter is to get themselves a title and then really objectively know how well they play compared to everybody else. And so the Players Cup is it's like an American Backgammon Tour. It's a bunch of these events that are typically held at ABT events. They're not run by the US Backgammon Federation. They're run by people in conjunction with the BMAB, like Roberto Litzenberger and his wife Irina Litzenberger, and who else?
Well, there's Dmitry Obakov,
Dmitry Obakov he's in BMAB, and he's a
Ben
grandmaster.
Friesen, and Jeb Horton.
Yeah, Jeb Horton, and his wife Robin, and his son Paul, and Paul's wife Andy. They are all working hard. And Jonathan Hardegree is another guy. He lives in Georgia, and he does a lot of work. And so that's what it is. And you win. You like the American Backgammon Tour, you accumulate points for good performance. If you win the tournament, you get a certain amount of points, and you win. Eventually, you can get an Iron Star for winning a tournament, or getting enough combined results to add up to 1 point.
And in 2024, Julius High won the inaugural Players Cup as you won the inaugural ABT way back in the day. But you were up there too. You were number 3 there. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was tough. I like my trophy better than the second place trophy, so that's a good. They have nice Art Deco. It's a nice swan theme.
Very good. Okay,
But
so
anyway, yeah. So and there's Irina Litzenberger on the right back there.
yeah,
She was runner up
this
to
is here, yeah. And then
Julius.
let's go through a few more pages here. This is some more about that, some more
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
This is an article about the WBIF individual championship, and you wrote an article about many different positions. That we'll look at this. We'll look at one of these positions in a moment, but I just wanted to flip through and see, show people the other stuff. There's all sorts of streaming. The 2024 Giants of Backgammon. We'll go through this a little bit more quickly. Women's World of Backgammon Cup, but there's so much more. I don't necessarily want to reveal everything. I want people to subscribe to it. So we'll let people join the USBGF, and then you can have access to all the previous ones.
One thing that Primetime Backgammon helps to do is promote women's backgammon. So in the world, there are many women players, but a lot fewer than there are men. And so there are various organizations, like the Women's World of Backgammon is one, and they run lots of events. There are international women's tournaments, and the magazine we cover all of those, and we all that we can, the majority of them for sure. And we also will note good results by women, not only in women's only tournaments, but in unrestricted tournaments, because obviously women are there. There's no men only tournaments.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I personally have an initiative to promote backgammon in underrepresented demographics, such as women and in youth. And I think these are outstanding ways to promote that. Do you happen to have any other ideas in terms of promoting them with such demographics?
Well, there are different demographics. Besides women and youth, there are federations, if you will, or national or regional organizations in backgammon that we should connect to more than we've done so far. We did it for a while, but that was due to one person, Christy Frisk, Romanian. The backgammon is very popular in Romania, so he would cover some Romanian backgammon things, and he would also be a roving reporter for other events. But he stepped aside from that. But like, for example, in the Middle East, you're Iranian ethnic, right? So and Persians were people from Iran. They're good players, right? I see the top players from that country. I look at some of their matches on YouTube, and I'm the top players. I'm very, very impressed. And I think that if we reach out to people in just in the Middle East, right? And some people there's already connections. Like Ardaf Findikoglu is the uh, he's Turkish. He's from North Cyprus, I believe, or maybe he lives in Turkey, but he runs tournaments in North Cyprus, which is the northern part of the island of Cyprus, which is controlled by Turkey. The capital being divided into control by Greeks and by Turks, Nicosia. And so there's a lot of backgammon going on there. There's backgammon in Russia. There's backgammon in other Middle Eastern places. Israel, of course, we've got David Presser, the Grandmaster. Eli Roimi won the World Championship in 2019. Backgammon is very popular in Greece, in not only Romania but Bulgaria. So it takes a lot of effort to reach out to communities in places like that, regardless of any political differences. I mean, backgammon should transcend that. And we've got the World Backgammon Federation. I know there's initiatives, and we're working closely with them to just promote backgammon all over the world.
That's
So I
fantastic.
applaud your efforts on
Thank you. Thank you.
getting the women and youth into it.
Yeah, and now with the social media, there are a lot of these social ones on Instagram. So that's fantastic. I'm going to pull up this position here. So this is a position that you analyzed in the recent issue of Primetime Magazine. So this was a match. It was a 13-point match. Red was playing at the bottom, white at the top, bearing off on the right. White was leading 3-0, so 10 away, 13 away. And this was the position. And red has a double four to play. So let's pause for a moment, let the viewers take a look, think about how they would play, and we'll resume in a moment with the analysis. Okay, so let's take a look at the position. And when you look at this position, how do you assess the position in terms of how to play the double four?
All right, so there are a few choices. So so red is, I think it's Stepan Nunians, who's an American player, and he's playing against Rich Sweetman. Rich Sweetman is playing the white checkers. This is uh, a late round of the World Backgammon Internet Federation Individual Championship that was held 2024 to 2025 and completed a couple of months ago. So Stepan is a veteran player. He's been playing a very, very long time. And he had a cumulative performance rating in this event of 3.7 PR. That's Grandmaster level. I'm not sure that Stepan submits matches to BMAB, but that 3.7 does not surprise me one bit, having played Stepan many times in the past. So Stepan has a double four, so there are a lot of choices, as there are often with doubles. So one choice is to just make the 5-point with two checkers from the 13-point.
Now, for the viewers that may not be familiar with it, when you roll a double in backgammon, you play that number 4 times.
Yeah, 4-4. So we'd go 13-9 with two, and then you continue with those two to the 5 point. That would be 4-4-4-4. And so he would have his 5 point, which is a very important point. And he wouldn't leave any more blots or open checkers than the one back in Rich's inner board on the 23 point. Now, besides that move, he could elect to make two inner board points. He could move two checkers from his 8 point to his 4 point, and two from his 6 point to his 2 point. That would create a 3 point inner board. And but the problem is it would leave a checker open on the 18 point, so that if Rich rolled a number totaling 7, 6-1 or 4-3 or 5-2, he could hit that checker, send a second checker back. That would be a huge gain for Rich. It'd be a big swing in his favor, as we say. If you wanted to concentrate more on priming than making a good inner board, you could make your 9 point with two from the 13, and you could make your 7 point with two from the 11. That way you'd have 4 points made in a row. And a solid a prime is a sequence of points in a row. But if the structure has a gap in it, we call it a broken prime. So if let's say red did elect to make the 5 point with two checkers from the 13, then there would only be 2 points in a row, but there would almost be 3 points in a row, right? But it would be broken because there's a gap on the 7 point. You have the 8, 6, and 5, but the 7 was not made. Now, if red instead made the 11, like I said before, the 9 point and the 7 point, then red would hold the 9, 8, 7, and 6. And that would be a solid 4 point prime. It's 4 points in a row with no gaps in that structure. And a solid prime is much better for blocking than a broken prime because there are fewer ways for the person blocked by the prime to get checkers up and out. If if red made his 5 point, then white's back checkers could escape with any 6. If checkers moved up to the 2, 3, 4 point of red, then those white checkers would have multiple ways to get out.
Right,
But
so we'll take a look at that. Let's show the XG analysis, and then actually I have some slides that show what the position would look like after each play. So here is the XG analysis. It turns out that, as you discussed in the article, that 13-9 twice, 11-7 twice, which looks like this. In XG, you can actually do this. If you click on the arrow radio button, it will show you where to move those checkers for the selected play. In this case, 13-9, 7-2, both twice. So these arrows show where they go, and then you can select the final radio button, which will show you the final position after the play has been made, and the dice will become lighter. So this was the solid 4 point prime that you were discussing.
yes, so you see that Extreme Gammon says it's best by a considerable amount of equity. It's plus 0.065. Now that's I don't want to get into too much detail of what that number means, but it's basically the average amount of points per game that you figure to win. It's more complicated than that because we have a match going on and not just a money game where you're just playing for a certain amount of cash per game. And so thus the current game is the only one that matters, right? But you don't care what happened in the past or you care what might happen in the future, but it's not what you do now is not going to affect your dice rolls in the future.
Right.
So, but in a match situation, you have to worry about your match winning chances. Not it doesn't matter how many points you win or lose during the match, as long as you win the match, as long as you get, in this case, 13 points before your opponent does. So that changes what the numbers mean, but the idea is the same. And if you look at the second best play, which is making the 5 point, it's those numbers for 13 to 5 twice, which this one, that's this move here. It looks like that when you after you made the play. The numbers are all in red, which means that each one of them is a blunder compared to the best move, which is in black up there. So, and there's a threshold of equity difference for a blunder when the default is 0.080, and the second best play, it says minus 0.085. That means it's 0.085 money equivalent points per game less valuable than the best play. And so, the reason is that your opponent has got 2 checkers back and you have 1 checker back. And if you make the prime, you're doing more to block your opponent's back checkers than the other play does. There's nothing that gets the back checkers, no direct number that gets the back checkers out. He has to roll a combination. He has to roll a 4 and a 5, or 4 and a 6, or a 3 and a 6 to hop over that prime right now. There's some numbers that are good. You can hop up to the edge of the prime, or almost the edge with a double 3 or double 4. You could split your back checkers, and then you can move them out. You have more ways to move them up and out next time. And you don't make a stronger inner board, but you have the solid 4-point prime, and that's an effective blocking force especially against multiple back checkers when you have only 1 back checker. So that's the basic idea. And you showed me the extreme gammon evaluation based on the upcoming rolls, and the fact that numbers with 6s are blocked, such as double 6, right, and 6-5. Those are just blocked by the 7-point, and so those are bad numbers for white, because white wants to lock red's our back checker in, and that overruns the blocking force. Probably he should just make the 2 and 1 points and hope to gain time to split and either escape checkers or anchor on a high point in our board and red's board. But the priming game sort of almost goes out the window for white after double 6, or say a 6-5 is similar. I'm not even sure what the best move is with a 6-5. You could hit loose on the 2-point, keep your 4-point prime. You could bring 2 down from the midpoint, trying to block further, or attack later and not have to break any of your priming points. It's very tough choice, because you have to make a concession, and that's one thing that a solid prime does for you. You typically will see a lot of the numbers that are blocked becoming bad numbers for your opponent. So it turns out that this is the best play, because it's more versatile than making your 5-point. If you make your 5-point, you're going to have a hard time improving your position from there. The checkers on your 11-point are only aiming directly at your bar point, right? And red is not even a favorite to make that point right away. You count 3 squared. You have 3 numbers attacking your 7-point. Count 3 squared, and you subtract any numbers that don't work, and you add any numbers that don't include, in this case, 6, 4, or 1, that do make it. So you have your 9 numbers. Double 1s makes it, but gives up your 8 points. So maybe we shouldn't count that one. It makes your 4-point if you want. It's a good number.
You have double 3 and double 2.
And you have double 3 and double 2. That's right, and double 4.
Yeah, which was
so you have 11 or 12 numbers only to make your 7-point, and you have a few more that run 1, 6, 2, 6, 2, 5. But 1, 6 is duplicated to make your bar point. You would run actually and not make your 7-point. And it's just that you don't have very much building power for your open points that you want to make on your side of the board. And if you don't make one of those points, your 3-point, your 4-point, your bar point, or escape a back checker immediately, then you're likely to have to leave checkers open somewhere. And the fact that you don't have your bar point gives white chances to hop out and hit you. So it's just the long-term strategy favors a priming game more than uh, a game where you want to make it more interboard points to prepare for hitting exchanges or attacks. You notice that white's back checkers are anchored, so you don't have any targets right now for attack. You just have to think, well, what if my opponent splits? Then I would like to have my 5-point, but you'd also like to have your 4 and 2 points, both. But you'd leave an extra blot that way on your 8-point, as we said before.
Yeah.
So this is it's sort of surprising because in the early game you want to make your 5-point very, very much so, right? But in this case, you don't even make a new interboard point. You don't make your valuable 5-point, but you do make a combination of your 7 and 9. And that 4-point prime is just very, very nice.
Yeah.
Now it's worthy to note that Rich Sweetman made an error in this position by splitting his back checkers. And then Stepan won the game based on an attack. I think he rolled a 5-3 and point. I think Rich split with a 2, and then he moved to his 5-point, which is labeled 20 on the diagram here. And that was the wrong idea to split the back checkers and open up attacking possibilities for red, because if you just stay put, red is going to have some awkward numbers to worry about. So what Rich should have done is play the 2 down to his 11-point, that's labeled 14 right here, and then moved to his 5-point which is the 20-point, and then just concentrated on attacking the red back checker or maybe blocking it in further, and just let red come to him and see if red rolled something crummy, like let's say a 6-5, right, or a 6-3, or a 5-4. None of those. There are a whole bunch of numbers like a 5-2, 5-1. They don't do very much at all for red. He's got to make some kind of concession, stack more checkers, leave extra blots. That's what white should have done instead of splitting.
Right. Well,
so the interplay of themes, when do you split? When do you block? When do you attack? Is very good, very interesting for this position. That's why I selected it to analyze in the analysis of the match that Rich played against Stepan on his way to winning.
Thank you for the outstanding analysis. This is wonderful. We can certainly learn a lot just from this one, and there were maybe like almost 20 positions from that match. The other things that I noticed from this one is when you do this, this does provide some landing spots. So if you roll like a subsequent 6-1 or 6-2, you'll probably move off the 23. But other rolls, you have some landing spots here. And furthermore, when you make this 5-point, you make it without using the checkers from the 6-point, and oftentimes you really want to unstack. And when you have the 5-point, now there are fewer useful places to put these checkers. And as you mentioned, this is no longer bearing on the 5-point, these checkers on the 11-point once it's made. However, here now you have good ways of making the 5-point or the 4-point. So fantastic analysis. Thank you very much.
Yep. Yeah. The points are valid that you just made.
So that was a great overview of the Primetime Magazine. It's been great to be able to talk about it, talk about the history, the evolution, look through some of the pages, go through some of this analysis. People really enjoy it. What has been the feedback from the readers about the magazine, the contents, and so forth?
Well, I'll say it's been overwhelmingly positive for as long as I can remember. And we've had a lot of constructive suggestions, such as, let's have more articles targeted at beginner and intermediate players. So we've tried to do that. And Art Benjamin's initial mathematical type articles were very useful shortcuts just for simply counting numbers, counting number of ways you hit a blot or the like. And then he got into more sophisticated things like the effective pip count, which is basically tells you on average, how many rolls do you have to get all your checkers off the board? And that's sort of a complicated. Some of these topics that Art discusses in his per issue column, Math Overboard, are the math behind it is pretty complex, and he comes up with really good formulas that, sometimes they're hard to remember because there's different cases and all that, but he'll typically say, okay, well, this, if you don't want to remember everything, about that I've said here, there's a bunch of stuff that's relatively easy to remember that you can use that will help you a lot. So that's been sort of a part of it. And I remember that Steve Sachs has written some articles about, that really targeted just to people who don't have the experience that some of us do. And those have been excellent. There were other players who have done the same. And there have been a lot of articles I can remember by that report on tournaments from the perspective of a new player, or even analyze games from their own viewpoint. And we've had great feedback about that. As for criticisms, right? I get some of those mostly at each tournament I attend. A player I don't know, or who I may know just slightly, comes up, and if I don't know them, they'll introduce themselves and they'll say, Marty, I want to thank you for your efforts with Primetime Backgammon magazine, because I really enjoy it and I find it really helpful. And that's what an editor really loves to hear. But sometimes the feedback is negative. I remember one guy said, "Well, your analytical articles this month, or this issue, are, there's not enough analysis for me." And I said, "Well, yeah, you're right for this particular issue, but that was the only one I remember like that in a long, the only one ever probably that didn't have a whole chock full slate of analysis." There were a lot of tournament reports, right? But I think we fell down a little bit on one issue. And sometimes we've had, quality issues with the print publication, few and far between. But, one time we had Rory Pascar, the Chicago organizer, who's organizing the upcoming Boston tournament on Halloween weekend. He was on the cover late last year, I think probably it was fall 2024. And some of the text, the blurb beneath his photo on the front cover was blurred. And the problem we had is that the color of the blur matched his shirt very well. And so we must have thought, gee, this is probably, probably expresses his fashion choice of his shirt. And it was rather funny in a sort of distressing way, because we knew that, okay, we had submitted the electronic copy to the printer, and we know that the electronic copy was good because we looked at it, but they had a production issue with the ink smearing or something like that, and so we had to sort of eat crow about that, and the production editor Chris Hoyer wrote an article about, okay, this is how we go about producing each issue, and this is what happened in this case, and this is how we're going to make sure it never happens again, and the like. So we try to be transparent about response to criticisms, even if we're the ones who catch the errors. And forthright and transparent, and just like say what we think, and apologize if we're wrong, etc. So I think like I said, the feedback has been positive, but we are very careful to take any criticism very seriously.
I agree. I think the feedback that I've heard has been overwhelmingly positive. So thank you very much for your contributions to Primetime Magazine. And again, congratulations on being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Looking forward to that ceremony, which I plan to live stream. Do you have any final comments before we conclude the video?
Well, I'm just honored to be part of these videos, Alex, and I'm glad for the opportunity to reach out to everybody and talk about Primetime Magazine, right? Because the more people are aware of what a great publication it really is, and the just the opportunity to learn from all the articles, like such as Art Benjamin's. I keep all those print issues around for reference, right? For effective pip count calculations and all that stuff. I say, how do you do this again? I'll pull out the Art Benjamin article from this issue or that other issue, and I'll refresh my memory. You can do things like that. You can look at it online. If you want to subscribe to be a print member, or you get a printed issue each time it comes out, there's two ways to do it. You can be a premium plus member, and I believe that costs $195 a year. Is that right? Yeah, I believe so. I believe it's $195 a year. Not only do you get all the benefits of being a premium member, but you also get the printed edition. And if you can buy a print subscription without being a member of the Federation at all, but that will cost you $140. So for the extra 55, you get a premium membership, and the premium membership is valued by the subscription price or by the membership price of $85 a year. So if you're going to get a print subscription, you might as well become a premium plus member. And you can, if you want to donate to the Federation, we're always looking for donations for our mission to grow the game. There are opportunities to do that. You can become a founding sponsor. You can basically pledge an amount of money every month, or you can pay in full for a whole year. There's all and you'll get a shout out in the magazine, and you'll get a nice, let's say, depending on the level of sponsorship, you get a nice doubling cube with your name on it, or the like. You get a free lesson by a grandmaster type, depending on the level that you want. There's a lot of things you can learn about if you just go to the USBGF website, usbgf.org. And as I always say at the end of my synopsis of each primetime issue, get into the game, become a member.
That's right. Well, thank you very much, Marty Storer, executive editor of Primetime Magazine, Hall of Famer and legend in the game. It's always a pleasure to see you. You certainly have an open invitation to return at your convenience. We'll go ahead and conclude the video. Thank you to the viewers for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, what you'd like to see in future videos, and I'll work on it. Again, if you love backgammon, you can become a member of this channel, giving you exclusive access to the most popular videos. My book, Backgammon Backgame Strategies, is available. There's a link in the description where you can get it. And if you're interested in lessons, please contact me via email. My email address is also in the description. I look forward to seeing you in future videos. Until then, keep rolling your dice.